All right, so what I'd like to do is go through a couple of the books that I've read that have helped me significantly save money. Because I've always been very lucky that I've always had a job. I've always worked. I've never really had an issue with finding work, which I'm very, very fortunate for. But the issue that I've always had is spending my money. So I don't buy stupid shit. But what I do is buy lunch every day or something is convenient, so I'll just pay for it to be done. So there's a big difference between wasting money like that and wasting money in terms of getting $20 cash out and letting the bank take $3 of it every time you swipe your card in an ATM, or letting the bank take $5 every month from your account for account keeping fees, which I can't imagine them doing much in terms of account keeping for you to just have an account open with them. So there's lots of little things like that. There's things like that in these books that I got a lot out of, and they've saved me a fuckload of money. So what I'd like to do is just start with one that if you're in Australia, you've probably heard of. You've probably seen a lot of people harp on about it. The Barefoot Investor. Scott Pape, he is a finance guy. He's qualified to give financial advice. And for a while there, I was buying his Barefoot Blueprint, which is like a guide on how to spend money in the share market. The reason I think the book is important is because it breaks down a lot of the stuff that don't realize that you can get away with not paying for. So things like super, it runs you through how to make sure you're getting the best deal for your super. Banks, what you should be charged, what you shouldn't be charged. Debt, how to pay it off. Good ways to, when your income comes in, good ways to split it all up and make sure that you're sending your income to the appropriate streams to make sure that you're paying your bills and you've still got money in your pocket for things you'd like to do. So Barefoot Investor. He brings out a new guide almost every year. I think it's every year. There's at least a 2017, 2018 version. Whether or not he's done 19 and 20, I don't know. But regardless, even the oldest, the 2017, which I think this one is, I highly recommend reading. Next one that I'd like to recommend. This one's a little bit strange. And if you're not interested in shares, I still feel like there's a lot of value to be gained from it. So the Intelligent Investor. When I first read this, it was well above my head. Well above my head. There's lots of stuff in here that I didn't understand and I needed to Google, but that was good for me. Going through and reading it and coming across terminology that I didn't understand, which educated me on little things in the share market, banks, all that sort of stuff that I wasn't aware of and should have been at almost 30. So another fantastic book. I couldn't recommend more. It was written by Benjamin Graham. He's the I don't know anything about him, but Warren Buffett recommends it, and he's like one of the richest dudes in the world. He's got a prefix. Is that what it's called? Preface, an appendix by Warren Buffett. So he gives his 2 cents because it's highly recommended by him. So little things in there about buying stocks and bonds, even understanding what those are. So if you don't understand what those are, great way to wrap your head around what all that stuff is and how to spend your money on that sort of stuff appropriately. The next one, a little bit different. Not about finance, but I think is really important because a lot of the stuff that you need to do when managing your money comes down to action. It's all well and good to read a whole bunch of books about where to spend your money, what not to spend your money on in terms of banking fees and things like that. But a lot of the time it's really hard to take action. That's often the hardest thing. For a lot of people, working out is not difficult. But a lot of people, the hardest part for them is getting to the gym. Well, a lot of people, for me, that's the easy part. Getting to the gym is the hardest part for most people. For me, starting any kind of endeavor with my money is boring and I don't want to do it. So The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. fantastic book. Basically goes through everything in your brain that stops you from starting something. He calls them, what does he call them again? I read this book just a moment ago. I'm having a mental blank.
A few moments later.
Resistance. Fuck me. That took longer than it should have. He calls it resistance. So anything in your brain that tells you, I should do that later, I'm going to do that when I'm less tired, these are all excuses. This is all resistance, and resistance is your enemy. While I'm recommending this in a video about money, it's a fantastic book to get if you just want to work better in general. I guarantee if you read this book, every time you make yourself a bullshit excuse about why you can't do something, you'll remember resistance and why that little excuse that you told yourself is a load of bullshit. So, like I said, if you can read all the books in the world, but if you don't actually do any of the things that these books have recommended, then you're going to be exactly where you were. So, fantastic book. Couldn't fucking recommend it more. Now, the last one, don't let the title fool you. I'm not an idiot, and I know that titles and different things that are unachievable in a title are ridiculous. I'm just going to tell you what it is. It's from 0 to 130 properties in 3.5 years. And I know that that's ridiculous. But I didn't buy this book thinking that I'm going to purchase 130 properties in 3.5 years. It's poorly titled. It's from Stephen McKnight. Essentially, why it's called that is because Stephen Knight and his business partner went through 130 properties in 3.5 years. They don't necessarily own 130 at a time, but on their journey of property investment, that's how many they went through in that period. They own property investment companies, and this book, I'm actually 3/4 of the way through it, so I haven't actually finished it yet. But to be honest, it's a large part of why I'm making this video. It goes through mindset. It goes through anything and everything you can think of that might be important when purchasing property. I've already gained so much from this book, and I'm really excited because there's still about a quarter of it left. Not only does it give you a shitload of information about property, also developments, subdividing blocks, how to value a block, how to work out if a block's going to be positive or negatively geared, which are things I didn't even know what they meant when I read it, which is something that if you don't know, you should. I just can't recommend this one more. The other great thing about this book is if you purchase it, you can register the book at propertyinvesting.com, and there's a whole bunch of extras that you get. Probably every 10th or 20th page in this book, there is something else for you on that website. So every 20th page or so, there'll be a thing in here. Visit propertyinvestment.com, register your book, and you'll get free access to whatever the thing is that he was talking about in that particular chapter. Couldn't recommend it more. The next book that I failed to think about when I was creating this, and I'm spewing. I don't actually have the book on me because I've lent it out. That's how much I love it. I think everyone should read it. I'm going to bring it up here. Is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. If you have not read this book, you need to. I don't know why, but for a long time I held out on watching this, on reading this book. It's it basically goes through, and as you can see, it's $10 on Amazon. You got no excuse. It's a fantastic book. It basically goes through two father figures that he had. His biological father, who was a teacher, he earned a good amount of money, and is often referred to in the book as poor dad or educated dad, because while he was educated and while he made a good income, he made poor choices and essentially never failed to pay his bills, or never had as much money as Rich Dad. The reason Rich Dad is referred to as Rich Dad, obviously, he's got a lot of money, but their mindset and how they used their money was very different. So the difference between me buying my fucking lunch every day like an idiot, just get rid of that. There's a difference between me buying my lunch every day like an idiot and making my lunch and using the money that I should have saved on something like an investment. Those sort of things really become clear when you read this book. I know I've said this about all of them. I can't recommend this more. I don't know why I held out on so long on reading it, but I cannot stress enough that it's extremely important. So not only does it go through some mindset stuff like that, it also goes through income streams and what you should be doing with your money. Very similar to the Barefoot Investor, and how you should manage them, or how you should flow your money down through a chain of expenses so that you're spending money on investments that give you money back. Also around dodging tax legally. There's a whole bunch of stuff in there about dodging tax. Doesn't go into the nitty gritty, but it mentions some things which gives you leads and enables you to, look up different things and educate yourself further, because I suppose that's what this is going to be all about now. I think this is the longest time I've ever recorded myself talking without breaking the video up. Besides streaming, when I'm usually responding to people talking to me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to pull the video up here. I've fucking yacked on for long enough. If you've liked it, if you've read any of these books and you want to add anything about them, please leave it in the comments. I will read all of them because there'll be like 3 maybe, obviously. If you've got anything to add about any of these books or any questions on any of these books, please throw them in the comments and I will get back to you, because I've got really nothing better to do and no excuse. But yeah, just one more time. Barefoot Investor, Intelligent Investor, War of Art, 0 to 130 properties in 3.5 years, and Mr. Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad Poor Dad. If you do anything or buy any books for the rest of 2020, make it one of these books, because you will not regret any of them, I can promise you. That being said, I have 0 education in recommending anything finance. This is just stuff that I've read and stuff that I've got value out of. So feel free to throw something else at me. If you think there's a book I need to read, please leave that in the comments as well. But anyway, like the video if you liked it, hit subscribe if you fucking think you'd like to. And I'll see you guys in the next video.